What's going on, guys, and welcome to another video. I'm going to be covering a very heavy and hard topic with this one, and I'm going to be tackling some stuff that might be offensive, triggering in general, just because it covers a lot of mental health issues. And just generally as a blanket statement, I want to get out of the way that this video is not going to be for the faint of heart. It's also not going to be intentionally disrespectful. Everybody involved is a human being. Human beings are capable of making mistakes, and I think that most people had good intentions who were involved in this story, but shit went tits up after a certain point, and every fucking person has their limits. It's kind of like the end of GTA 5, where Michael looks into the camera and says,
"Human stew. That's my limit."
I truly think taxes in a video game was kind of my limit, but there's a lot of nuances and a bunch of different things that I'm going to get into, because I know people are going to say that, isn't it a little bit much to not wait out this new policy and see what's going on? And I want to make it clear out of the gate that it's not the policy. The policy is not why I left. The legislation is not why I left. But I want to tell you why I actually left. So, if you're cool with that, if we can have an honest discussion, and maybe even talk about some things generally with a broader stroke of just 5M that needs to be touched, I think something productive can actually come out of this. So, with that being said, let's get right into the meat and potatoes of what the hell is actually going on here. Now, I'm not going to be naming names, obviously. I don't want to do that, because I don't want to be accused of trying to dox anybody. What I will be showing footage of is a controlled public interaction that most of the general public and SAF is able to see. I'm only making it public to you, the viewer, to understand what's going on from the outside perspective. Because while I think, again, like behind a lot of the stuff, there's a lot of good intentions, there's been a giant effort to spin SAF and make SAF's image look better lately, and not actually deal with the problems and look at things at face value as far as what's going on behind the scenes or in the actual community and trying to fix the actual issues with the community. But instead, they're more worried about creating a media team and trying to pretty up their public persona and their image. San Andreas Finest is a great place with a lot of good people, but so is DOJ. I mean, every place has good people in it. I'm sure that everybody in SAF has good intentions. There's a whole host of people that I love and appreciate and that helped even me in my time. But the fact of the matter is, a turd is a turd if it comes out of a butt crack of a dog. It is what it is. And I really think that we need to look at this stuff on a broader 5M scale and tackle this and figure out what to do with it. So, my first big thing was just how I was treated and how I've seen other people get treated. I want to move from, like I said, broader to personal, because the personal stuff will explain what's going on with me right now, but the broader stuff will better educate the broader member base or the broader, viewership of SAF content as to what's actually going on. Or just, the broader, not even what's going on in SAF, again, broader 5M big picture. So, in a lot of 5M communities, ever since I joined Aspirant Gaming back in 2019, I've noticed that there is a sentiment to want to shut down conversations when it's not even, I wouldn't even say when the people having the conversation or the member base, like the lower totem pole member base is having the discussion. It's whenever the higher ups are pissed off that the lower, on the totem pole folks have an opinion, that they tend to shut down the conversation so that where there can be no conversation and they can continue to carry on with their policies the way that they were. That's usually the first red flag for me that I'm somewhere, like I'm in a community I don't want to be in for long. This happened recently to me. And again, I'm only showing this footage because, again, it was a public matter. But in here, in this whole conversation, first of all, the tax legislation dropped, the Business and Financial Information Act, or whatever the hell, the BFA, Business and Finance Accountability, whatever the hell it is. that legislation got pushed. And boy, was it a doozy. People said that it would only take 5 minutes to fill out your stuff if you got audited. It took... Did I say that right? Yeah, people said it would only take like 5 minutes, 20 minutes. It took me an hour and 30. I got audited for something else I'll get into in a minute. But when I did get audited and I went to go and fill out the paperwork, it took me an hour and 30 to figure out, okay, well, we have somewhat of a tax bracket going on here. We know that the, tax rate is 25%, and SAF is like, okay, I didn't have enough time to get, because this was right after this got released, I got audited. I didn't have enough time to get papers together to get, like, people actually sending in donations via, like, a Google form or anything, which is something that I wanted to do and thought it would be cool roleplay. So I had to figure out how many locals donate to San Andreas lifeguards, and I sat there and I was like, okay, well, what's the population of SAFs to San Andreas? I'm like, shit, that's not written down anywhere. Okay, well, what is the, what's the gross, what's the word I'm looking for? When a state has a budget. There we go, that's the word I'm looking for. Sorry, it's late when I'm recording this for the record. San Andreas' finest budget for the entire state is usually around 49 billion, I want to say. So I went and I looked, I was like, well, what's a state with that budget? Found Georgia, based everything off Atlanta, sliced some stuff in half. 2 hours later, after doing a bunch of math, I figured out how many, locals might donate to the cause and thus figured out what our income would be. Then I had to remember how many lifeguards we actually had. Thankfully, I'd calculated how much we were paying each for what beforehand. And trying to figure out all these different abstract things on top of trying to figure out, on top of trying to figure out everything to do with the paperwork itself, it became an hour and 30 minutes. But the response to any criticism of the BFA was, oh, well, you're lazy, you're stupid, or you're both. That's not cool, and that's not healthy. And when people tried to explain, it's like, we don't want to do taxes for a video game. It's like, well, why don't you want to do taxes for a video game? You're coming here for realism, right? Well, part of real life is doing taxes. So if you don't like doing taxes for a video game, you don't like roleplay. That's an absolutely fucking juvenile view of things, and honestly, I'm not a fan of it. I respect you for having your opinion, but you are not going to sit here and tell me that as a grown-ass man or woman that you think that it is a good idea or a good use of your time to calculate taxes for a character that doesn't exist for a video game and waste time on this to try and keep track of this, especially if you have multiple businesses. So to keep track of all of that and make sure that all of that is in order, the amount of accounting work that you would have to do for all of this would be absurd. It would be absolutely bonkers. And to just, I'm not like, I was thinking about that through the lens of when I was still working for the fire department. I was like, I'm not going to go to work at 12, get puked on by grandma, come home and do taxes on a video game. I'm sorry, but every person has their limits. I've hit mine. I know that now. That's my limit. Doing taxes for a video game. My mother has complained that I don't spend enough time with her between work and my gaming habits. And honestly, at that point, I've set aside time for this because I have friends on here that I enjoy hanging out with. But I'm not going to tell her I'm blowing off going to watch the Grammys with her to go and fucking do taxes for my video game character. I'm just not. It's an utter fucking waste of time, and I know that I'm swearing and I sound loud and I sound angry. I understand that different people have different views on this, and this is ultimately what I want the focus of the entire video to be. Everybody has their idea of what the perfect 5M community should be. And that's okay. That's how a good, healthy community gets grown. I have no qualms with that, but do it in a manner that's respectful, talk to me like a fucking adult, and have a conversation. But we couldn't do that. Because the second answer to this whole conundrum was, well, if you don't want to do all the paperwork, that's okay. You can throw it all on this one CivCOC member, and they will take care of it for you. They will be H&R Block, TurboTax, whatever tickles your fucking fancy. They will be the tax company for you. I didn't like that, personally, because I don't trust somebody to not file my taxes wrong or report something because it's a number off, but I don't trust people to not mess with my paperwork for their political gain. The fact of the matter is, this community is ran by people. People are flawed. With the behavior that's going on here that I've witnessed and experienced, I don't know that I trust any CivCOC member to deal with that. That's my own problem. If somebody else feels more comfortable, more power to them, God bless them. But I don't feel comfortable doing that, because I like having control over my storylines. I like having control over how much my characters make within reason, as long as it's realistic to some degree, rather than being responsive or responsible to another party who can go and edit my stuff to fit into the mold and will of what COC wants. No, I don't want to have every character be a billionaire. No, I don't want to have large, unrealistic salaries. Yes, I think there's too many people doing stuff like that, but you can't take a baseball bat to a freaking anthill. You're taking a very disproportionate reaction to an action. But I digress. I just didn't feel comfortable doing it because, and they proved my point later on, half the time I worry or wonder if, with all due respect, they know what they're talking about. And again, I can't stress this enough. I love this community and I've loved these people. I know that they're good people with good intentions. I'm not aiming to insult anybody's character or integrity in a large way, but I want people to see their fucking fallacies for what they are and call a spade a spade. When I got hit with the audit, it was based on some very loose and confusing, or not even confusing, just very poorly written legal, not even legal jargon. It was lacking in legal jargon. It was, this person, the complaint was, this person is doing something I don't like. You should go investigate it because it's mad crazy. You can go into the link in the description and see the screenshots of different things if you want. Just so that way I don't have to keep trying to edit the shit into the video. But it was the weirdest legal document or complaint I had ever seen. It got signed off on by a judge of all people. It was submitted on the 5th and signed off, I want to say on the 5th, but I could be wrong. But the BFA didn't get released until the 25th. By then, my finances were in order, because the whole crux of this issue comes from me having some lifeguards make $200K. Well, here's the thought process and how we got here, and I'm going to try and make this brief. Missouri does not have an ocean. The state of Missouri is what most of our laws are based off of, but Missouri does not have an ocean. Therefore, trying to calculate the salary of or income generally of a business that specifies or surrounds oceanic lifeguarding was going to be completely impossible for me to do without going to California or the East Coast or the South. Those were my options. Texas, Cali, or New York. Pick one. And so I picked California, not fucking remembering that their economy is absolutely bent out of shape. I'm sorry, Cali, if you're listening, but your economy is absolutely bonkers to anybody who doesn't have your standard of living or, cost of living. So this whole problem had been resolved. Everybody's salaries had been dropped to 40K. I had told CivCOC that this was happening. Annex was a big instrumental part of SALG. She told them that our salaries have been slashed and reduced, and everything was supposed to be fine and dandy. So getting hit with this, I was like, the actual infraction that they're concerned about occurred before the law even existed, I should say. So I asked them more of in character, like, because all this is supposed to be done in character. That's another thing I don't care for, is the notion that, like, well, this is entirely in character, so it should be better, right? No, because you can still repossess my house or property or what have you if you don't feel that I've filed my taxes adequately. Which is an out of character, out of game ramification. I no longer have that property. Anyways, I responded via email and I was like, is this even constitutional? This is, this feels like ex post facto, which is the clause that says you can't punish somebody for something after the fact. After somebody for, if somebody goes out and if Biden walks into the Oval Office and signs a bill that makes weed illegal today, Snoop Dogg cannot get arrested for smoking weed for the past 20 or more years. You get what I mean? This is basic 8th grade Constitution. I got told that it was upheld by a judge or something. I don't even know if it said that or whatever, and I got threatened with the FBI for my troubles. So, we have the threat of a three-letter... English is hard. The threat of a three-letter agency that isn't public access, that nobody can really join or knows how to join. They just know that it exists as like almost a subdivision of state for whatever special people they decide are cool and special enough to have it. Great, that's comforting. Constitution, out the window. Hotel, Trivago. I mean, I know I make light of the situation, but it's absolutely infuriating for a community that touts itself on fucking realism constantly and wants you to eat shit because of realism, can't even figure out basic 8th grade constitutional law. And I just kind of was sat there and I was like, this is a heavy manipulation of, 1, the law, 2, a very heavy-handed response for something that's already been resolved and been submitted, like COC's been made aware. It felt targeted. I don't know that it was targeted. I like to think that maybe I was just the first, of many to have them test out that system with. But I would have preferred the tongue-in-cheek, hey, we're testing out the system, just play along. Rather than, hey, get fucked, bud. Give us your documents. So, I don't know. It felt very targeted. And it's the same type of either ignorance or corruption that made me not want to submit my taxes to a Civ COC member. I didn't, and still really don't, trust them to act in the best interest of the player base. Because when a member comes to you and says, hey, this is a lot of work, for you, the COC member who has to deal with this is a lot of work. Are you sure that you want to do this? Or, we're worried about you, and we genuinely were. I was concerned. The person who made the freaking thread in the community suggestions was concerned. And out of a pure place of love, and we got told to basically fuck off, and how dare we have concern for them, or talk about or discuss their capabilities, so forth and so on. All of this should have been checked. In my opinion, there should have been a fucking public hanging in the form of a scolding towards the CLC members for this behavior. Not a blanket, because people can't act right, we're closing this down. It should have been because CLC, or because people have made this, and it should have been very clear, that in specific instances of behavior that was just not okay, like the one I just mentioned, should have honestly been called out very quicker, much sooner. And that's the ideal situation if they're gonna close the chat. But if they're gonna leave the chat open, or I would argue rather that it'd be more productive to leave the chat open. It left a bad taste in my mouth. And I started thinking about the whole thing, and I was like, have I felt good here? Have I felt safe here? Do I feel like the staff team here cares about me? Or do they just care about whatever agenda they're trying to push? Because I also don't want to be in a community that puts its member base's, feelings last and its own agenda of its staff team first. I don't think it should be ultimately the member base gets everything they want immediately. No. But there should be more conversation. This stuff gets fucking pushed, and we're told to like it. They've been threatening to bring economy in forever and a day, and whenever somebody brought it up or whatever, it was told it's like, well, it's gonna happen anyway, and it sucks to suck. It is what it is. We really don't get much say in these matters. At the end of the day, they just do what they want, regardless of what the member base says. Because a lot of people were upset, and here's the thing. I'm going to break this down the middle and just extend an olive branch here. As somebody who's been COC and 5M communities for a long time, I understand what it's like to work on a big-ass project. You think you feel great, you think you're doing something good, and you put it out and it's absolutely hated. That's a horrible, horrible feeling, and I'm sorry that we made you feel that way. I don't think it was any of our intention. However, if you're getting that overwhelming of a response, maybe you ought not do it. It's a cluster. COC work is a cluster. And ultimately, I'd like to take the notion or the path of everybody had good intentions, and this was just a giant list of fuck-ups that just led to this point. Now, looking back over the years, I've also noticed that when old-time members, long-term members tend to push back on notions or try to give input, they're generally dismissed and pushed away. Why did, I'm just going to come out and say it. Why did certain people just disappear into the night after they tried to make a community relations team? Why? Why do these things happen? Why is it whenever somebody tries to get the input of the community, stuff gets shut down? I know what the answer is, or somebody's going to be like, well, you just don't know. You just don't understand. No, motherfucker, I talk. I talk a lot. I know shit that people think that I don't know. And everybody wants to go and hide behind this magical wall if you just don't understand. But the fact of the matter is, I've been playing this game for too fucking long. I know how the sausage gets made. Even if I haven't seen it in SAF firsthand, which I have a lot of it, but let's say hypothetically I hadn't. I know I was a fucking psychology major, and I'm honestly thinking of going back to school to finish up my psychology degree. I know how people work, and I was born at night, not last night. If somebody tries to do something good and they ultimately disappear, what the fuck could that mean? What is that? And you assume it's like, well, it's like, okay, well, it doesn't have to be that, or whatever. It's like, maybe they did something to do. Once again, I know people. I talk to people. Yes, there's two sides to every story, but 99.9% of the time when I have gone and tried to get the other side of the story, my gut has always been right ultimately in the end. So I'm trusting my gut on this. I'm trusting my gut on this one and saying that you all are silencing anybody who doesn't agree with you. And it checks out and tracks with how you guys are treating your member base. Because whenever somebody disagrees with the beloved COC that can do no wrong, they immediately get shot down and silenced. I haven't verified this yet, but I've even heard it said that somebody got a strike purely for expressing their concern about the whole BFA thing. That's a problem. You can't be having that. But for you to sit here and invite me to want to join this media team and advertise for you, are you fucking kidding me? Are you absolutely fucked? No, I'm not doing that. That's why SAF content hasn't gone onto this channel in forever and a day. And it's because, while I love this community and I love the storylines that I've made in this community, I don't want to give them a not nary one red cent of publicity. I can't in good conscience. Because while there's a lot of good intentions, And I don't think anybody involved with this is absolutely evil. I think that it's a fucked up community that I don't want to be a part of, and I'm not going to recommend to anybody. It has way too many flaws, and the problems outweigh the freaking perks. Because the other thing that I noticed very quickly was, not only do you not list... basically what I'm trying to get at is, and again, this is the same thing with 5M. I want to come back to these notions and wrap them up in a little bow. I've been in like 5 different communities, and every time you start speaking the truth, you get silenced. It's not some fucking Fox News conspiracy or anything. Insert your cable outlet, whatever the fuck analogy you want to use. It's not some conspiracy theory. It's just the fact of the matter that people generally, as human beings, myself very much so included, because I'm terrified of what the fucking comment section is going to look like to this, but people generally don't like hearing things that are criticisms of themselves. They don't like hearing negative things about themselves. And so, they want to run away from it or shut it down. It's human nature. Own it. It's okay. We're not saying you're bad people, but you have bad habits that need to be corrected by yourselves. Only you alone can fix it. But this is something that happens in every 5M community I've been in. I've been guilty of doing it myself. It's why Rocky Mountain shut down. I couldn't take the heat of the criticisms, and I shut shit down. You need to have thick skin and be able to deal with these things. Otherwise, nothing is going to ever go anywhere. 5M probably isn't going to exist in a year anyway, so it really doesn't matter, but SAF as a community will not survive if we keep going down this road. 5M as a fucking platform will not exist for long if we keep going down this road. If we keep doing this, things are just not going to change. They're not ever going to change. Because we keep going through these things and we don't think about how we treat each other. And that's kind of what I want to end this on. Because I want people to take stock in how they treat each other. Because another thing I've noticed in a lot of 5M communities is one department gets made the poster child of the community. Or let's say it's the most popular. Excuse me. And then the other departments get jealous. There's always, with a community management team, this power struggle of what genre of roleplay has the most pull. Because everybody thinks that their way is the ultimate good or right way to run the community. It's that old fucking Tears for Fears song. It's just everybody wants to rule the world. That's all it is ultimately. Because everybody has their idea of how the whole shebang should be ran. You have some people who think that Leo is the most important thing. You have some people that think that fire is the most important thing. I subscribe to what I believe to be the reality of Civ is the most important thing. But generally speaking, you need all of them to have the other, if that makes sense. You need one to have the other. But we have these power struggles and all this stuff goes on. And then we have 2 departments that really need community management, or community managers, that don't have community managers because people don't want to stack the deck too far in one department's favor. I'm not naming English. I'm not naming names, but yeah, I fucking said it. You all don't want to bring on 2 new community managers, or community management members, because you don't want to have more arguments. You don't want to bring on more people from a differing perspective, and that's understandable. But again, it's not productive. Now, I know y'all gonna come for me. I hope that you don't. I'm saying all of this out of a place of love and respect. Again, I think I've beat this horse to death, but I don't think anybody is inherently evil in this situation. I think it's just a bunch of people who enjoy this game enthusiastically trying to figure out how to make it better. But the fighting and the drama and the bullshit, it needs to stop. We're all getting too old for this, and what happens is we get older, we drop it off, and the next generation takes up the mantle and they go and do it again. They play this game for a 4-year spin or so, realize that it's fucking stupid and drop it. Or they grow out of it. They turn 16, they join. They turn 18, they leave to go and focus on work or life or their parents or their family, whatever. And honestly, I think that's the healthiest view. This is what I want to say to you all who are younger. A lot of you are coming into this situation because you feel like you have no other outlet. You don't feel like anybody is going to let you be your unique self in real life. Maybe you're depressed, maybe you're just awkward, maybe you're weird, you're autistic, trans, gay, whatever. Maybe you're just normal, but you don't have the biggest friend group. Maybe you just really like filmmaking. I'm really proud of you because you are going to be the future of filmmaking, honestly. Because it's going to take creative minds like you who still think or dare to dream instead of going, dreams don't pay the bills. You are going to be the future of film. But I digress. For one reason or another, you come to this game. You come to this game as an escape from whatever your problems are. I want to ask you to do 2 things before I go. Number 1, if you're going to stay in any 5M community, within reason, I need you to leave your baggage at the door. I understand that you come here to get your problems off your chest, but the fact of the matter is, you having a meltdown every other day because you're trying to get through the day and find some way to release, maybe you just can't bring yourself to just cry because the situation is so hopeless, you can't form the tears, but maybe empathizing with some other character in a similar or different situation allows you that safe space to cry. Maybe because you don't have to feel like a wimp before crying. Or maybe you're outright, trigger warning, but maybe you're outright suicidal. You bringing these problems to the table every day with how you roleplay becomes draining for the first responders that are around you. In the game, I mean. Eventually, you become a burden on those around you to a degree because they're worried about how they're going to deal with it, and ultimately, what they should be worried about is, are you okay? I'm going to tell you a little story because I think there's going to be some of you who think I'm fucking out of my mind or don't believe me. The year was 2021. It was summertime. I was hanging out with Soldado, and we kept getting calls for a medical assist to deal with this girl who was either, I want to say suicidal or just having mental episodes just night after night after night. And mind you, when I was a teenager and I didn't have fucking anything to do, I no-lifed the shit out of this game and played night after night after night after night. And I'd see her night after night. It got to a certain point, me and Jake knew it wasn't a character. And we started talking with this girl. The stream is somewhere still on my channel, I want to say, but we started talking to this girl out of game. And she had been abused by her father. So she played a character that was abused by their parents. You need to have the forethought to think about these things as a staff member in a community with a fucking majority younger member base. Let's face it, you know that your member base is younger because you had to peel back the age range, age requirements, because you were losing people faster than you could replace them. You know what your target demo is. COC generally on 5M, but especially in SAF because they have the tools and means to do it, I'd imagine. But COC and 5M generally needs to be better equipped to spot these problems. And be able to reach out and check in. I know that it sucks and it's not your job, and I'm not even saying you should. The kids need to leave it at the door and not play the game. I'm a 100% believer in that. If it's going to get to that point where it's not constructive or it's just draining on everybody involved, they need to leave that at the door. But by the same token, you as an adult in the situation, for those of you who are, need to be able to have honest conversations with these kids and figure out what's going on. Because all of this boils down to there are people behind these screens. I can't say it enough. Let me say it one more time. There are people behind these screens. We forget it. We argue. We debate. We curse each other out. We don't want to deal with certain people because they give us a headache. Or maybe we argue about how best to do this game or what to do with this game. Or maybe they break some sort of rule. But damn it, on the other side of that computer is a fucking person. And it's the only thing that can keep me from crying is to be angry right now. I'm gonna say it one more time. The other side of that computer is a person. And that applies to this whole topic. You don't get it. I keep saying it. I said it when I left the first time in 2021. Be kind to one another because it's the only way that this game is gonna thrive. It's the only way that things are gonna get better. And to those of you who are younger or older, generally speaking, you don't have to put up with that which you don't like. Every 5M community is the same. The assets might be a little bit different, but those as developers begin to standardize stuff are even starting to become more standard. Every 5M community is ultimately the same, just with different people running it and maybe a slightly different set of rules. At the end of the day, if you leave, they will find somebody to do whatever the hell it was you were doing and start over again like nothing ever happened. Some people might care about your storylines and how they interact with theirs, and that's great, but that's from the perspective of how they feel about themselves. We're all coming to this for the enjoyment of ourselves. And yes, some people might care about other people. I'm not saying everybody on 5M is a selfish bastard, but ultimately you're coming to a video game because you want enjoyment for yourself. So it's not even immoral or wrong to not care about the person on the other side. It's only logical in my mind, but you have to break down that barrier, come down to earth and realize that there's a person on the other side of that screen. When someone dies and you get that message, there's a person on the other side of that screen, or there was. Be kind to one another. Keep your mental health at the forefront of your thought. The final straw for me, you want to know what the final straw was? It physically hurt me. The stress physically hurt me. I was dealing with the bullshit and I was talking about some drama and I got hit with some utter nonsense that I'm not even going to get into, but I got hit with some nonsense. I don't know if it was the audits or something else, but something pissed me off and I was already having job problems this week, still kind of am, and I got so angry that my muscle spasms kept kicking back in and it was painful. I'm surprised I'm not having muscle spasms right now. I hope that the sincerity of my plea resonates with some of you, especially those of you who are younger. Your physical and mental health is not worth it for this video game. I don't care if that means you stop playing 5M ultimately altogether, but it's not worth it. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. And just generally speaking, that's why I'm leaving. I didn't lie when I said it. I was like, I'm getting too old for this shit. That's why I'm leaving. That's why I'm probably not going to come back. But I'm not done yet. Because I want to have one last hurrah where I can do this and maybe do this right. And it might be ambitious. But I know my friends, and I know the people I'm starting this community with very well. And I trust them, if nothing else, to have a clear enough understanding. It takes the ability to let go and leave a 5M community to be good at staying in it and leading it. I'm gonna say that one more again. It takes the ability to understand that this is a video game and you can throw it away, and to not become addicted to it. That's what makes good leadership in 5M. And I know that for the vast majority, this entire community managed group could very easily put down 5M and not have it be a problem for them. And I know that they will take into consideration making it feel like a safe space, because I know that I have had a few women come to me in my time in different communities, especially SAF, and ask me, or tell me that they didn't feel safe in the community. I've had trans people tell me outright that they felt like their department COC didn't like them for being trans, but couldn't be openly transphobic without getting blasted, so they just found subtle ways to have little microaggressions with them. There are serious problems there, and, that's just kind of life. I love when people try to say, like, there was this one guy who left SAF and was like, SAF is racist. And I was like, well, no shit. People are racist. Guess what SAF is made up of? People. I'm not going to sit here and say that SAF is racist or SAF is transphobic. Are you fucked? Are you out of your mind? There's people with all sorts of different views off of the fucking religious and political rainbow in this mug. You cannot sit here and tell me that a community is racist or transphobic or what have you. A community can't be racist. People can be racist. Hopefully that's not an ignorant sentiment. Hopefully I don't regret that statement later, but I find it to just be true. I'm not saying excuses transphobia or racism or what have you, but you're looking at the wrong picture and you're advertising the wrong thing. You're screaming from the mountaintops that, don't go over here because it's racist. No. Don't go over here if you want to deal with this one fucking dude in the corner who has a problem with trans people, black people, whatever. Anyways, I need to get off my soapbox. I want to create a safe space where that shit doesn't happen, that stuff doesn't fly for the most part. I want to at least know that the core founding team has their head screwed on right enough to understand that bigotry is not okay, and to have the tools to see it even, because you can hate bigotry, but you cannot know how to see it. You cannot know how to see it. So River Valley's going to be coming back. We're really close to opening River Valley back up. I'm the head of EMS and PD over there. That might change as time goes on. But I'm the EMS chief and the police chief currently, and that's honestly where I see myself being happiest. I got a whole host of my homies helping me out with this. I'm really blessed to have those friends helping me with this project. And I want to invite you, because this is a public community, and it's going to be for a while. We have the aim to whitelist eventually, but it's going to be a public community for a while. And we want it to ultimately be a place where people can have fun, they know that the member base is valued, and they know overall it's going to be a good time. The number one complaint I got from people when Civ COC wasn't around or looking was the fact that people felt like they had creative scenes that they loved and wanted to do, but they didn't know if it would get them banned or not, because there was specific rules in place to just basically go, well, if somebody is offended enough, we'll kick you for it. Instead of just being like, let's strike people or have a conversation about it and try and talk things out. There have been people who have, more than fucking earned that kick in the butt out the door. I'm not denying that. But there's some people who are really just ignorant or meaning well that I think it could have been handled differently. I don't know, but that's just my 2 cents. But we don't want to create a community where fear is part of the structure. And yeah, I hope that you'll join us for that ride. Smash that subscribe button if that's something you want to see. Keep up to date with what's going on. I might leave the comments open on this if I'm feeling brave enough. I'm out. Deuces. God bless you. God love you. Goodbye.